All right, everyone. Good evening. I'm going to call this meeting to order for the Brawley City Council and successor agency to the Brawley Community Redevelopment Agency. Regular meeting for Tuesday, September 18th at 6 p.m. We can have the roll call, please.
Councilmember Hamby.
Present.
Councilmember Kastner-Haudegi.
Here.
Councilmember Couchman.
Here.
Mayor Nava.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Morton.
Here.
All right, thank you. Our invocation will be led by Mr. Tim Kelly. Mr. Tim Kelly.
Dear Father, please be with us tonight at the City Council as they work with our citizens in the City of Brawley, making this a better place. Thank you for all the things you've done for our city, and we pray that we are with you as you are with us. We ask this in Christ's name.
Amen. Thank you very much. Next is the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Councilmember Hamby.
Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilmember Hamby. And thank you, Mr. Tim Kelly. Much appreciated. All right. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as written?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is item 2, public appearances, comments, not to exceed 4 minutes. This is the time for the public to address the council on any item not appearing on the agenda that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the City Council. The mayor will recognize you, and when you come to the microphone, please state your name for the record. You are not allowed to make personal attacks on individuals or make comments which are slanderous or which may invade an individual's personal privacy. Please direct your questions and comments to the City Council. Is there anyone here who would like to make a comment on any item that is not on the agenda today? All right, there's a few, so if you could please come up. We'll start with Miss Marjo.
And I like it because sometimes people leave. Anyway.
All right.
The Senior Center officially started handing out meals again on Monday. And we are looking at Tuesday, October 16th at 10 a.m. For our open house / ribbon cutting / cookies and coffee.
Awesome.
Yeah, we're excited. So we want to give you a heads up. It's also the same day as a council meeting, so we're hoping most of you are in town, and if you're available, we'd love to have everybody there.
Fantastic.
What
Yep.
time?
10 a.m.
10 a.m.
And they start giving people the food at 11:30. I guess serving the meals would be better phrases here.
Sure.
At 11:30, so it should work really well to have a walkthrough and look at everything and see the brand new stove and really cool doors that they've added that are safer and all that kind
Yeah,
of
all
good
the
stuff.
improvements, certainly.
Yeah, paint and
Can't wait to see
all
it.
the pretties.
Well, thank you very much for the invitation. We
You're
appreciate
welcome.
it very much.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Marjo.
Are you awake by 10 a.m.?
No, I try not to be. 11 at the latest. Be nice.
All right, is there anyone else who would like to make a public comment? All right, please, come on.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor.
Good evening, how are you?
I'm great. How about yourself?
I'm doing fantastic,
And
thank you.
And all the other council members here and everybody else, and the fine outstanding audience we have here today. Always good to see a group here. I'm Ralph Fernandez. I'm here representing the Greater Brawley Chamber of Commerce. And at the Chamber of Commerce, we have a board of directors, and currently we have Councilwoman Norma Kastner-Haudegi serving on that board of directors. And prior to that, we had Councilmember Sam Couchman. And unfortunately, Sam Couchman served a long time, he served longer than me, so we did finally realize that we do have term limits. So his term expired, so he's no longer serving with us. However, I'm here to recognize Mr. Couchman for all his service, all the years that he represented the city of Brawley, the city council, and everybody here. He was always there for us. He was very helpful. He was very supportive. And whenever we needed somebody to help out, to be there, or to say a few words or whatever, Mr. Couchman was always there. So in recognition of his service, we'd like to present this to Mr. Couchman.
Oh, fantastic. That's very nice. Is it an alarm clock as well, so he can get up in the morning? Yeah. So make it. See, he'll make it on time. Man. Great. I appreciate that on his behalf. Thank you. That's very nice.
That's fine.
Thank you.
And just in final recognition, if we all give your support.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. I mean, I realize that. Thank you. I realize it's for the award is for Sam, but I do appreciate it very much. I know he works very hard, and I'm proud of his efforts. So thank you very much. Thank you. Congratulations. Good job.
Mr. Mayor, Honorable Council, Tim Kelly, Imperial Valley Economic Development Corporation. I got about 4 things I wanted to bring up, but
You got 4
I'll
minutes.
keep it under 4 minutes. First of all, this morning we had our annual business meeting for IVDC, in which we elected our new officers. Deborah McGarry was elected as our chairman with Southern California Gas Company, and representing the city of Brawley, George Nava was elected to be on our board of directors. So we want to thank you for serving and your support for our organization. The second thing, I just want to announce that our grand opening of our new office will be October 18th, and we'll be sending out invitations, but that was just approved. I think notices should have gone out this afternoon, and it'll go from, I think, 4 to 7. We'll have food, we'll have some other things that will be there. And finally, I want to say that our annual dinner is going to be held here in the city of Brawley. It will be held at the Elks Lodge. And so we hope that you can attend. And the theme this year is What's in It for Us? And we're going to talk about a lot of the great things that are going on in a downtown area like the city of Brawley, and how you're benefiting from reinvestment by a lot of the large projects that are coming here, restaurants and other things. And so I think you'll really enjoy that. Just to let you know, the reception will be on the roof, and the dinner will be in the dining hall.
What, I'm sorry.
What's the date on
What's the
that?
date on that?
It'll be November 15th. It'll be a Thursday evening.
All right. Sounds great.
And the final thing I just wanted to bring up is progress on the Brawley Theater. We have re-energized the theater, so it's all ready to go. We're waiting for a date in which we can have a fundraiser. It'll probably be about mid-October, in which the lights will go back up. They will be on from that point forward. And our next campaign is really putting the new roof on, the trusses, and rebuilding the fly. That is going to cost about $350,000 is what our estimates are right now. We have about $150,000 in the bank. We have about another $30,000 coming in, and we're really starting our fundraising campaign. So I do want to work with the city council and let you know that we want to find out what our limitations are to do some fundraisers inside the building. As you know, it's the demolition has been completed, it's been secured, but if we knew what our limitations were, we can start planning around that. So I'll be glad to set up a meeting with you, Rosanna, if we could talk about that and get this thing completed. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. We're going to put you on the rotation for the invocations, by the way. Good job. Thank you.
That was a good job.
Is there anyone else? Marty Coyne.
Good evening, Marty Coyne. I just thought I'd stop by tonight and just bring you up to speed a little bit. As you know,
All right.
I came before you about 30 days ago. Spoke to you about trying to revive Latico Ranch.
Right.
And, so I think staff has brought you a little bit up to speed, but I wanted to bring you up to speed, at least on my side. Since we last spoke, we have opened escrow with the seller and scheduled, if everything goes well, and we can come up with a development agreement with the city of Brawley to close by November 22nd,
Fantastic.
which means very possible we could be under construction by early sometime next year. So hopefully with the help and support of council, staff, we've still got some hurdles to get through. We are trying to work with IID to try to get a little bit of support from IID so we can try to fulfill all the conditions that were on the original map. The other thing I was going to ask you, input from the council tonight. In the spirit of time, I wanted to get your feedback a little bit, what your thoughts would be on this particular project as it was previously approved, of possibly bringing it direct when we get done with staff, of bringing it direct back to council rather than losing the timeline of having to take it through planning commission. Is that a possibility, and would the council consider that?
Well, let me, right now is the time for public comment, but we could certainly ask our city attorney, is there any objection? Okay. We can maybe get a more firm of an answer here soon, but I'm not exactly sure if we can bypass that process or not, so.
Depends on the changes that are
Yeah,
considered.
right, exactly, yeah.
Yeah,
We can maybe get some answers for you
Not a
very soon, though.
problem.
Yeah.
Not trying to beat anything out,
Sure.
but the timeline that the sellers put us on, we got a little bit
Understood.
more with ID. We're waiting for some information from ID. I need to probably meet with staff one more time before we can maybe draft up a development agreement. And I'm afraid that extra 2 weeks to 30 days
Sure.
could take us right to the edge. If we were able to maybe bypass that, it's possible we can get it back to council potentially by either the first meeting in October or the second meeting, and kind of move forward in that
And
direction.
maybe we can investigate that in the next day or so and provide some input to you.
Yeah, and our goal is to get together hopefully with staff again one other time, either by the end of this week or first part of next week.
Fantastic.
Any other questions you may have, or?
No questions. I'm just excited to see that it's moving forward, and hopefully we can find some common ground. We're excited about moving that project forward, and I think you are too.
So are we, and we definitely made some movement, and we're getting much closer, and thought it would be a great project for City of Brawley to
Fantastic.
get it going
I'm
under
excited.
construction again in 2019.
How's everything going for you in El Centro?
Everything's well.
Yeah?
Everything's well. Habit Burger's almost done.
Yeah, I saw that,
And
yeah.
I'm actually just, hopefully tomorrow I'll be signing a lease. I think I told you last time, Panera Bread is going to take the last pad over there
Awesome.
at the Coin Power Sports Complex. What else do we have going? We're building some single families. So the perfect scenario would be is we're finishing 62 single families over at Savannah Ranch, and it would be great to roll right out of that, right into Latico if everything comes together.
Hopefully soon we can also see a smaller Coin Motorsport location in Brawley, right near going
That
to
has
Glamis.
crossed my
so-
mind. At least at the
Next
worst
to the
case,
Pilot Center, yeah.
potentially a satellite
Yeah.
location for the season or something.
Yeah.
I would love to sit down and speak with you.
That'd
At a
be
later date.
fantastic.
There's
I
lots
think
of
with that
options
traffic
available.
coming into town like that, with that travel center, I think it's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, we've taken on an RV line you may have
Mhm.
seen, and of course I think that kind of coincides with what we do on the power
Right.
sports side, and that's been real successful. And we can almost potentially do both during the
Fantastic.
season. So yeah, I'd love to talk to you about it.
I think the mayor's willing to dress up, however, and help promote as
Yeah,
well.
no, we'll do it.
Put
We'll
on
do
that
whatever.
clown suit to
we'll
get
do
them to
it.
all stop and
I'll
buy
do
it.
the sign, the spinning thing, whatever it takes, So.
I got things we could
Mr.
address.
Thank you.
Kelly's willing to do it too.
Yeah, yeah.
Mr. Kelly's willing to
Thanks for your
address
time.
Thank you very much. We appreciate the update. Is there anyone else who would like to make a public comment? There's some scheduled comments, but anyone else?
it. Ryan,
Supervisor Kelly's on.
Supervisor Kelly.
Is this the proclamation, Ryan, or is this just separate? Yeah,
This is separate.
Okay.
Yeah, I was only planning on trying to get here at the actual time for public comments.
Oh, okay.
So Ryan Kelly, 448 Russell Road. Happy to be here. I wanted to give you a couple of updates for the county.
Fantastic.
First of all, I want to thank Alma Benavides for participating in the election ad hoc committee.
And she was excited to do it, I'll tell you that much. She was. She mentioned it to me. She really did, yeah. So I'm glad you.
Well, it was beneficial
Yeah.
to have her there, and there's a lot of good things that are coming out of that discussion. Today we did a proclamation for election poll worker recognition, and then next week we will be taking some of the recommendations from the committee, including an increase to the stipend, which hasn't happened in over 14 years, increase in the amount of poll workers that we're going to be bringing in, a change in the location of the polling that is done at county administration outside of the elections office, so they can continue to count ballots during the election day.
That's a good idea.
There on election night, you'll see some changes. The website is going to be changed, and in 2 weeks' time, it'll be available on the elections page. It'll be mobile friendly so that you can get access to the actual election night results. And as you are probably all super users, you will be able to also look at precincts as they're coming in. So they'll be red until they have reported, and then they'll go green. There'll be a legend to tell you where those precincts are located. And then once the election's over, we'll get the committee back together to kind of debrief
Debrief
and
on it,
see
yeah.
if there are more things that we can address.
Awesome. Fantastic. No,
Nice.
I appreciate the update, and I'm not kidding. When Alma spoke to me about it a few weeks back, she was excited and I told her, I said, you have the most experience in dealing with the election process here. I think you'd be a great addition there. So thank you for having her. So I appreciate that very much.
One of the things that, and Alma is familiar with, is the ballot box, a vote by mail that can be dropped off at city halls. A rule change required that we had to have 2 people paid, and their job was only to watch that ballot box all day long. we could no longer have the city clerk or any city staff be occupied with that task. There is a caveat, though, and so by not this election, but in the future elections, we will be asking the city if they're willing to anchor a ballot box in the clerk's office, and thereby we would not need to have additional poll workers standing by to watch a box.
What's the bugs? Did I get that job?
Yeah.
You can, and stay tuned for that.
Sounds like a
stipend
great
increase.
job.
You can be the
Sounds like
anchor,
a
Sam.
great
There you
job
go.
every day, you know, you could come down and watch the ballot box.
So we'll increase probably to 275 poll workers this season.
Wow, that's a lot.
Well, thank you again. And I know you're going to be up on the agenda here in the next couple, so,
Am I?
yeah. Don't go anywhere, don't go anywhere.
Okay.
All right, so is there anyone else who would like to make a public comment on any item that's not appearing on the agenda? Seeing none, we're going to move forward. It's 2A, introduction of Mario Renteria, District Representative, Office of State Senator Ben Wesso. Mr.
Good evening,
Renteria.
ladies and gentlemen. I'm just here to briefly introduce myself. Some of you probably know me as working at the Imperial Valley Press for 18 years. I am excited to reintroduce myself as a district representative to Senator Ben Wesso down here. It'll be my responsibility to provide information to our constituents regarding any State Department or state-related issues, and also to work with your government regarding any information or possible collaborations in the future. I gave all of you my business card so that you can contact me if you have any questions or anything that I can help you with. I also left a stack of business cards up there with Alma in case anybody wants to contact me for anything. I'll gladly do the best that I can.
Well, fantastic, Mario. I
That's
wish
good,
you
Mario.
well. I'm happy that you've landed there, and I know that you're going to do a really great job.
Thank you.
You've always been a very good person to work with and
Thank you.
share information with, and I know that you're going to do a fantastic job.
Thank you. And
here
to
with
point
Ben
out,
Wesso.
Brawley is one of my coverage areas, so I was really excited when they told me that because I've always had a great relationship with you, all of you. So I look forward to
Look forward to it. Thank you again.
Thank you
Thanks
so
for coming
much.
by and dropping off your card. Congratulations to you.
Congratulations.
That's great. All right, next on the agenda is back to Mr. Ryan Kelly. 2B, proclamation declaring the week of September 23rd through the 29th, 2018 as voter registration week, which we were just talking about, presented to Ryan Kelly, County Board of Supervisors, District 4. The backup material on this particular topic is on page 5, and there is a proclamation that I'd like to read, and I've signed it, and I'm going to hand that over to you once it's read. So I'm going to read this for the public's benefit. So it's a City of Brawley proclamation declaring September 23rd through the 29th, 2018 as Voter Registration Week. Whereas the right to vote is a cornerstone of democracy, that people of free will have the capacity to shape our government and the future of our country. And whereas registering to vote empowers eligible citizens to exercise their right to cast a ballot on Election Day. Whereas as of August 28, 2018, Imperial County has 68,122 registered voters, and of those, 3,010 are newly registered voters that were acquired since January 1st, 2018. And whereas the voter registration process in California is easier and more convenient than ever, with applications available online for eligible voters through in-person registration at the Imperial County Elections Office. And whereas the need for public information and education regarding voter registration is critical for eligible voters to take part in the electoral process, whereas September 25th, 2018 is recognized as National Voter Registration Day, which seeks to create broad awareness of voter registration opportunities to reach thousands of voters who may not register otherwise. And whereas during the week of September 23rd through 29th, 2018, the Imperial County Registrar of Voters will conduct various community outreach events and activities to promote the importance of engaging in the election process. And now, therefore, be it resolved that I, George A. Nava, Mayor of the City of Brawley, do proclaim September 23rd through the 29th, 2018 as Voter Registration Week in Imperial County, and encourages all eligible citizens to register to vote and take part in activities designed to promote greater participation in the upcoming November general election. So I've signed it, and it's presented to Mr. Ryan Kelly, former mayor of the City of Brawley, now County Board of Supervisors, District 4. So Thank you again for allowing Alma to participate. We appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I did not know this was on the agenda. I was told it was on El Centro's agenda. Nobody told me it was on Brawley's agenda.
Hey, see?
But I'm
Surprise,
glad to be
surprise.
here. It was fortunate timing that I showed up early today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He knew.
Isn't that nice?
Also, I would like to, there are a couple other items that, and Alma may have already told you, but there will be a calendar out for the mobile vote, and we're hoping to do it with chili cook-off. And we also are going to have 2 weeks at City Hall where we're going to have the 2 people watching the ballot box.
Sam will be
So
with
if that's in agreement with the city council.
All right.
Sam,
Well, I'm
just
going to stand right
hire
here,
me.
right, you know, so that way we're
How much are they paying?
Thank you, sir.
I have to officially deliver it.
Where are we gonna set
I,
up?
I always tell people, I've known Ryan since he was only this tall. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Oh, no.
That never gets old. I like that.
Yeah, that's a good one.
All right. Well, thank you again, Mr. Kelly. Appreciate it.
Moving right along.
All right. The next item on the agenda is item 2C, proclamation declaring the month of October 2018 Breast Cancer Awareness Month, presented to Oreta Chin, Imperial Valley Cancer Support Center. The backup material is on page 6, and I'm going to read the proclamation. If you can all come up, please, I'd appreciate that. All right. And I've signed this proclamation as well, and I'm going to read it for the public's benefit and for your benefit. So it's a proclamation from the City of Brawley, Breast Cancer Awareness Month, October 2018. And there's the banner that they're holding up. Whereas breast cancer is the most common cancer in women around the world, and whereas women in the United States have a 1 in 8 lifetime risk of being diagnosed with breast cancer each year, whereas more than 260,000 new cases of invasive breast cancer are expected to be diagnosed in women and more than 2,500 cases in men in the United States this year, according to the American Cancer Society. Whereas increased access to quality care, cancer care, screening, and prevention, especially among minorities and the medically underserved, must be a top priority in our community. And whereas the mission of the Imperial Valley Cancer Support Center is to provide tools and services that support the residents of Imperial County in the fight against cancer. Whereas the City of Brawley acknowledges the importance of raising awareness of breast cancer in order to promote early detection, support survivors, and those currently battling breast cancer. Now therefore, be it resolved that I, George A. Nava, Mayor of the City of Brawley, do proclaim the month of October 2018 as Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So here's your proclamation, and thank you very much for coming out here. I know you probably have some comments. I'm sure you have some comments, right?
Mayor Nava, members of the council and the community, thank you so much for today. We are very excited about the upcoming events that we have, not just for Breast Cancer Awareness Month, but this month is also Childhood Cancer Month. And so on the 28th of September, we are having an event at Hidalgo Hall called Cancer Sucks Happy Hour and Not So Silent Auction. It's from 5:30 to 8. We're not having a gala because I couldn't afford to buy a gown. And so we're going to have a 5:30 to 8 o'clock event. And we're going to auction off many of the paintings that women and men have done at our Paint and Wine, and some other items that have been donated to us by people who have lost their loved ones to cancer. So we invite the entire council to come. We'd be very excited. And for the month of October, we want to paint the valley pink. We don't just want Brawley, we want every community. We have Chief Sawyer and Chief Pereza have both agreed they're going to wear pins. We have for the police officers, one with handcuffs, and for the fire department, one with a fire hose through it. And so we have pins for you. We have bags for you with pins in it. We hope that you,
thank you very
would
much.
wear the pins that we have.
Certainly.
Sure.
And the last thing we would love to do, we would like to put a pink spotlight on City Hall the 1st of October. We'll furnish the light, but we would like to have the pink glow to show folks that we're all in this together, all communities.
Thank you.
And we appreciate and thank you so very much for the proclamation and for all the support you've given us.
Thank you very much.
you.
Absolutely. And then we'll certainly make something happen with respect to the pink light. I like the concept there, so thank you. And thank you for bringing awareness on, breast cancer, which affects so many people in the valley and people that I love and care for, and, it's just a terrible thing. But you're doing great work. Thank you. And here's your proclamation.
Thank you so much.
Put on there, get a picture.
Thank you again, Louise. I appreciate it very much.
Should we,
We didn't for some of the other ones.
that's a big one.
And Ryan, you want to come up, or we're going to take...
That is a good cause, though. I think we should all take a picture with it. Yeah. We all need to. Well, waiting. I cancer. I guess Rosanna's taking it.
All right, fantastic. Thank you again. And we appreciate the pins, so thank you again.
Yes.
All right, so we're going to move on. Next is a presentation by Mr. Tom Henderson, VSW Post 9305, regarding Vietnam Veterans Memorial Mobile Wall. The backup material is on pages 7 through 13. Mr. Henderson.
Many of you met me. I also am the executive director of the Imperial County Medical Society, and so I know a lot of you that way. You tried to put my... And it's VFW 9305. We're the last remaining VFW post in Imperial County, and we're getting a little older. So things came up. We started talking about bringing a mobile wall down here, and here's the mission statement. We talked about patriotism earlier. It's really important that our students, our children, our young adults, any of them you talk to can give you their rights in a heartbeat. Ask them their responsibilities.
That's a good point.
And so it's really important for them to understand what people have paid for those responsibilities. But this is not only for veterans. I have personal friends that were opposed to the war, but lost very good friends from school and college in the war. And so it's an all-valley event. And what we're going to do is we're bringing it down in 2020. We started 2 years early for a reason. We're kind of old and we work kind of slow and want to get everything lined up before we get there. And quite frankly, we're working well towards that goal. I really want to encourage all of you to speak here in your community, especially to educators. I'm going to reach out through Todd Fennell to the board superintendents, school boards, etc. But it's got to filter down. Somebody's got to say, hey, kids ought to go see this. Obviously you can't cart the whole school district down, but during the days we're going to have time set aside for school visits, and I hope when this thing develops and you guys get the word on that, you'll encourage your local educators to participate in that. We have 33 known KIAs identified in 1992. To our knowledge, there are no additional Valley KIAs. There are people that were from the Valley, moved away, and may have died outside of it. We're going to try to trace them down. But we do know of at least 33 from the Valley. This is what a fully assembled eastern panel of the wall will look like. I don't know if you can see it in the back, or you don't have monitors individually.
No,
well,
we don't.
it's 230 feet long, the one wall. Okay? And it's half scale. The wall is square, but the names are written in the same manner as they are in the Vietnam Wall. Have anybody here been to the Vietnam Wall? 1, 2. It's an experience that's not to be forgotten. And many of us, just for a whole lot of reasons, won't go there, won't be able to go there. So we thought it was important to bring it down, especially since my commander, Rick Ruane, would you stand up, Rick? He's the commander of VFW 9305. He works very closely with
Sure.
me. He's well known here in this community. Sit down now. Get
All right. Yeah, once he's up, he can get.
He's the youngest guy. He's the youngest guy, and I'll let out some HIPAA. He's 68. So
Uh-oh.
we're getting there. All right. This is in Phelan. It's a desert community. They made some exceptions to their normal setup, but you see it's mounted. It's got, in their case, they have AstroTurf underneath. They did not have grassy. They're literally in high desert, place I would never want to live, but some people did, and they had a really large turnout for a small remote community. When somebody comes to the wall, there'll be people there with computers. If you have a name of a friend, a relative's relative, maybe they ask you to get a rubbing of the wall, they'll print out a blank sheet. That happens to be the sheet from my platoon sergeant who was killed with me when we were in Cambodia. And you can actually etch it. We have the carpenter's pencils, and you'll be able to do an etching of the names. And so you can, even if you got friends that aren't from around here, you can send it off to them. A lot of vets come out. A lot of guys that don't belong to organizations for a variety of reasons. They'll show up, and a lot of them will do the etching. We're going to have benches with some trees and some plants just to give people an opportunity. What we found was that they have a greater show up like at 7 and 8 at 9 at night, kind of when it's quiet and want a whole lot of folks around, especially amongst the vets who want a time, or families. If we can get a hold of enough of the families, we'll have a Gold Star ceremony prior to the official opening. Now, we have absolutely no say in where it will be placed. The owners of the wall are a VFW post up in Antelope Valley. They built it, they paid for it. So we gave them 2 possible locations. Central to the Imperial County is Buckland Park, and they're looking for a site that is like a memorial setting, trees, hills, cedars, and Buckland Park seemed to be one spot. We've identified 2 positions and maybe a third that could be fit on Buckland Park, but they come down and they decided. El Centro has issues, and I'm not going to bother you with what they are, but we're aware of them, and we're going to discuss with them. The other potential site is at IBC, and it won't be there as I have marked on there. When we went to mark it out, we found we literally did not have enough distance because it's a very long area. So the site at IBC that is pending is actually in front of the nurses' health, the nursing building there. And that's a possibility. Again, they have issues that have to be resolved. And so I'm meeting with the president, Dr. Garcia, and their staff there. I'm meeting with El Centro City staff, and we're going to come up with mitigations, how they can mitigate the problems we have, what they can offer. And then the site selection committee from Antelope Valley will come down and they'll choose a spot. I'm trying to hurry up, but I don't want to go too fast. We're well aware of our needs. It doesn't show up very well for you guys, but it goes everything from porta potties to ADA access to golf carts to you name it. So there's a large need for a lot of things, like 500. How much feet? 550 linear feet of artificial turf. A laundry list of things that we've got to get. So what's our goal? Our goal is $12,000. Now, we're a small post. We are actually what? How many did you say, 15 active members?
We have about 15 to 20 active, and we have a total of just a little over 400.
Yeah, the 100 members are rolled in from all the other posts. So, at any rate, we put $1,000 in. The Imperial Breakfast Rotary donated, pledged $6,000. They've already put $3,200 in the account. We've had 2 businesses supported. Marty, you still here? He left.
No, he left.
He left. Marty gave us $500. CR&R gave us $500. I have since gotten pledges for another $1,000 from some businesses in the community. So we're doing 2 things. First of all, we're going to ask if If you, as a council, might find some way to donate anything, we'd appreciate it. If you couldn't, we understand it. Everybody's under tight budgets. We get it. One of the things I said, and I still believe, is raising the money will be the smallest problem. Our biggest problem is make sure the bodies that say they will be there on the time set up. And I've worked with you have a Commander Hauser from the police department. He and I have been in touch. Captain DeVoy with an MP company. He and I have been in touch. Security, in a lot of other places, is a big issue. I don't think it's going to be an issue for us at all. I have actively stated that I want scouting programs, Boy and Girl Scouts involved, including explorers, because there's where your patriotism is fostered to a greater degree than any average classroom. And so I will tell you, I am not in touch with the scouting leaders. Any of you know them. She's got my email. It's actually vfw9305@gmail. That includes anybody here who wants to reach out to me. You've got a contact. vfw9305@gmail. I'd really like to get hold of Girl Scout leaders, explorers. I've been in touch with the Sea Scouts. I've got them squared away. Border Patrol, I've got them squared away. But I'd really like to make sure that they are active participants. In fact, the current head of the Sea Scouts served security duty in 1992 when it came here the last time. So we're asking your support, financial. If you haven't got financial support, I get it. We would appreciate your moral support and encouraging citizens to come down there. Why centralized location? Because if we chose up here, it's the standard, it's the center of the county.
Certainly. That's understood. Mr. Henderson, thank you very much for your presentation. Greatly appreciated. It's great to see you. No. Not at all, not at all. With respect to our support, you have our support. With respect to financial support, we can maybe put it on a future agenda as a consideration and go from there, but thank you again for everything and for all the work that you're doing.
I appreciate it. I failed to mention that we've gone to the Veterans Affairs Committee at the county. They're behind us. To what degree, I'm not sure. We'll see when they decide. But we're really, we're going to get the money part done and over. Because when we have to, I don't want to be digging around saying I need $100 more.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Henderson, if I could, Mr.
Sure,
Mayor,
certainly.
you didn't mention, what's the goal on the fundraising?
Total is $12,000.
I missed that part. Okay,
Yeah.
my bad. And then
Yeah.
also, the actual Wall's arrival is in 2020, so.
Yeah, it's going to be a 2020. We're going to get the Patriot Riders to come in. They'll literally, I think they'll come in the night before and they'll stay in a motel. We have to, part of our expenses, we got to have 8 rooms for 5 days for staff. And so it'll be there. We'll have the Patriot Riders accompany it to wherever it's going to be set up. And the setup is really a technical thing that I'm not going to bother with now, but it's technical.
Okay, and then obviously with more of the private sector, you'll probably be looking for also potential in-kind donations and certain services and whatnot.
Sure, yeah, yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
You also might want to mention that is going to coincide with Vietnam Veterans Day.
Oh, yeah. March 29th, 2020 is Vietnam Veterans Memorial Day. That's the official designated holiday. It's 29th of March every year, and we're going to have some kind of deal after in the evening there. So,
Fantastic.
all righty, that's it.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
We appreciate
Thank you for
it.
hearing
you.
us, and I'm going to book
All right.
Enjoy your evening and thank you again.
Thank you.
But not very fast. Okay. Thank you. Take care. All right, so we're going to move on to the consent agenda. Items are approved, and that's, consent agenda item 3. Items are approved by one motion. Council members or members of the public may request consent items be considered separately at a time determined by the mayor. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Yes, so moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is regular business. Item 4, we'll start with 4A, discussion potential action to authorize the sale and consumption of alcohol on city property at specified cattle call events and waive associated road closure fees, pages 60 through 84. I've seen the backup material. I will make a motion to approve the item.
I'll second.
There's a second. Any discussion on the topic? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. Pat Dorsey lives, she used to come up and.
Yeah.
That's true. We're-
Pat Dorsey lives, yeah, I know.
Pat Dorsey lives.
All right,
Yeah,
next,
she's still
next
out
item,
there.
next item on the agenda is regular business, discussion potential action to award a contract to Pyramid Construction for project number 2018-03, Volunteer Park Lot Improvement Project, Phase 2, in the amount of $409,625.75. Authorize a 10% contingency in the amount of $40,962.58 for a total amount of $450,588.33, and approve a budget adjustment by the City Council resolution. Backup materials on pages 85 through 91 is going to be presented by Mr. Guillermo Cias.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Guillermo Sillas, Public Works Director. As you read on the information on the documents, this is a project. It is the second part of a three-part project that is using money from APCD primarily, and there's a component from the city. And as read on the documents, it was not enough because the market changed and prices are higher. So we requested additional funds from APCD. But even with that, the bids came a little higher than that. So we are coming to ask for your consideration to provide additional funds from the city to be able to construct it. Any questions that you have?
Any questions from council?
I just, for clarification, it talks about it's necessary, a budget adjustment of $35,855 to, as a bridge. So I don't know, Rosanna, or what, can you explain that a little bit further? What's the?
If I could possibly walk you through the numbers, the correct number is 70, the note that you make is the difference between the 35 and the 76. So there's two pieces to the award of contract. There's the actual contract award to the lowest bidder, which in this case is Pyramid Construction at $409,625.
Okay.
And then typically we have a 10% contingency that's authorized for unforeseen circumstances. So in order to account for the difference between the funds awarded by APCD and identified for a match by the City of Brawley, the difference between that sum and what the contract award amount is and the 10% contingency, the worst case scenario will be the funding gap of $76,818.
You shouldn't exceed that amount.
We may spend less because if we don't encounter anything with to cause use for the contingency fund, our minimum use would be $35,855.
Okay, thank you.
So, any other questions on this particular topic? Is there a motion to approve the item?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
Next item on regular business is 4C, discussion potential action regarding Hidalgo Society's request to waive road closure fees for Dia de la Raza on Saturday, October 6th, 2018. And backup material is on pages 92 to 96. And unless there's any questions by council, and we've approved these items for other nonprofits, I would make a motion to approve the item.
Second.
There's a second. Any discussion, questions by council on this topic?
Mr. Mayor, I do
Yes.
have one comment to make, and
Yes.
that is that as we go forward in future years and with the budget constraints that we have, I would like to, on maybe a future agenda, have a discussion about maybe starting to incorporate fees again for road closures and that kind of stuff. I know it's, I don't know if it's in this, if in the backup material tonight there was a kind of a layout of how much money is.
Right, the barricading and other
Yeah.
things, certainly.
And that's a pretty substantial amount. I know in the budget of millions and millions, it's a kind of a drop in the bucket, but in the state that we're in right now, it seems like every little bit helps. And so
Sure.
I think going forward, it would be nice to maybe incorporate a date to begin so that it's, a level playing field for everyone going forward. I understand we've allowed this in the past, and we don't want to treat people unfairly or differently than other people. But I think if we have a start date that everyone's aware of, maybe that's a way we can do that fairly, and I'd like to
I think that's a good point.
put that on a future agenda to
Maybe
discuss.
once after our budget's approved, we can revisit the topic, and then that likely will be maybe late October, and then we can decide when we can implement a change.
Great.
I think that would be, I would agree with you,
Thank
that
you.
needs to be
Yeah.
revisited.
Mr. Mayor, I was going to kind of support that also. I'm thinking maybe at the beginning of January, if that might be a good time to kind of take a look at that, start the new year with the possibility of reviewing our ordinance. I
Or at
believe
least-
it is an ordinance, right?
At least review the topic sooner, so we can implement it later, so.
Because we do appreciate, all of everything that the nonprofits do
Yes.
for our city and the events they bring to our community, but I think in view of our budget, we really need to take a look at this.
Well, there's just a substantial cost, even without the budget, there's still substantial cost, with respect to barricading, overtime expenses and other things, so it does get, and sometimes it's $1,500 and sometimes it's $7,500, so it's just something that we need to consider. Or maybe there's a waiver for up to whatever it is, and then beyond that, so, no, certainly, I would agree with that, sooner than later, but after we approve our budget, I think that would be a good time to look into that and delve into it.
I think in the backup material that referenced the total of 44,000 for that activity, was that for a specific time period, or was that just overall?
So what we're trying to do is, in our staff reports, is be sure that we're outlining the costs that are being incurred by the city in connection with special events.
So that was cattle call.
So for
Right.
cattle call, just the
Just the
three
three
specific events.
Yeah.
So not cattle call rodeo,
Yeah.
not lead up to cattle call, just to support the events themselves. The
Yeah.
three mariachi night, chili cook-off, and the parade.
Yeah.
Those are the actual costs charged to the city.
So the only thing I would warn, just my opinion again, is I think right now we're taking it on a case-by-case basis. So right now, if we wanted to, I think as a council, we could have this discussion and opt not to grant the fee waiver, right? We could say, no, you're going to have to pay, but I'd be careful about drawing a line in the sand, say, from this date forward, because, again, we have significant events like this. Are we not going to have it? And I think that could be met with, obviously, quite a bit of opposition from the community. So all I would say is I'm in agreement, understood, but I'd just be careful about maybe the hard line in the sand, maybe a better process for vetting which events moving forward.
Yeah, and I think that's important, but
Yeah.
we can make, it's ultimately up to us to make a consideration.
Yeah.
So it could be like, hey, look, here's the hard costs, maybe you're charged 10% of that. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Right now, we're not doing any of
Right.
that. So it's like,
Understood.
considering. So I think that's a good point. On both aspects, I understand it, So, okay, so there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is regular business, item D. It's 4D, presentation by Meredith Garcia, Director of the Imperial Valley Small Business Development Center, IVS BDC, regarding a request for 2018 financial contribution. Backup materials on page 97, and just as some information for all of you, Ms. Garcia did send a letter requesting funds for support of SBDC that we've supported in the past, but now she's here asking for a second time, so go ahead.
Thank you. Honorable Mayor, City of Council, thank you so much for having me here tonight and giving this presentation about the Small Business Development Center and our progress. So I'll go ahead and start with presentation for tonight. I do want to give me just a second. There you go.
All right.
So I just want to start about the program overview about what we do. Our mission as Small Business Development Center, we're part of a nationwide organization named America's SBDC, but we are part of the San Diego and Imperial Network. And our mission is to provide a superior business counsel and education to small businesses and help out with economic impact and growth in our California and Imperial County in our center. Our vision is to help out entrepreneurs, help existing businesses through our core businesses, which are technical assistance, one-on-one counseling, and trainings. Just to mention, our services are no cost and also are in confidentiality with each of the clients. We're working with all these cities and the whole county. And also, sorry. It's taking a little bit longer. I also want to explain about the type of clientele that we serve. At the Small Business Development Center, we find out that we help out the entrepreneurs, everyone that does have that idea that they want to develop a small business, right? But also there is a lot of need for existing businesses. There is our services, our compliance on the part of one-on-one counseling with financial review, access to capital, develop a business plan, marketing research, also marketing plans. But we are also following initiatives for the small business owners that they need to adapt and change. This is regarding the social media, e-commerce. So we're implementing all these topics into our counseling sessions and trainings to help out our community. Our small business owners are here in every day with challenges, but the Small Business Development Center, like I mentioned before, our mission is to help them out and be the guidance that they need on every step that they're following through on their journey as small business owners. And like I mentioned, we're part of the San Diego and Imperial Network. We follow the guidelines. We're partially funded by the Small Business Administration. So what does this mean? The program does have the core services, and also we follow key performance indicators. These key performance indicators are our goals. The three on top are the top goals that we're being in performance, and we have metrics. Long-term clients are all those clients that we have visited or that we have worked with more than 5 hours. Our system automatically turns them as long-term clients. Business startups, as it names, and capital infusion is when we work with a client to help them through access to capital or help them through their own investment in their business. Also, we follow with jobs creation, change in sales, the amount of consulting hours that we're providing, awards, those companies that they're having government contracting, certifications, that we are helping them to have those certifications in their businesses, and training events. Like I mentioned, we follow through goals and performance, and we are in continuously overall performance, measuring our results through our goals. As of 2018 and as of yesterday, long-term clients, our goal is for 50 for this year. We are very accomplished that we accomplished 63, or we are in 126%. For business startups, our goal was for 15. We already accomplished our goal. For capital infusion, our goal is 2.5 million. As of now, we're in 1.6 million, we're in 65%. Our pipeline indicates that we will exceed this goal for the year. We're working directly with different lenders, banking institutions, to help the business owners to have those connections and be ready with their financials. That's one of the core services that we provide. Help the business owner to be ready with all their financial statements, to actually make a wise decision. Why do they want to pursue the access to capital? As of job creation, this is we measure. We have 315 jobs created in the county. Change in sales, 29 million. Counseling hours, 1,082 hours. I do want to reflect on this. Internally, we do have a goal. Our goal for the year was to provide 1,000 hours. And as of last year, in comparison, for this time frame, we have 638. So we're increasing our counseling. We're in touch with the community and training events. As of now, we have done 9. I will in the following presentation, I'll explain about the trainings and our overall calendar for the year. And total training attendees, 153. For City of Brawley, with these same goals, we did an economic impact of what have happened during this 2018. For long-term clients, like I mentioned, as of now, we have 28. Startup businesses, we have 4. In capital infusion, 309K. Job creation, 174. In counseling hours, 170. This is our progress, but we're still working on towards our goal to increase these numbers. We have on the pipeline startup businesses in order to help out more and to help City of Brawley to actually succeed with our small business owners that we know we're going to make it, but this is as of now how we're doing our numbers.
And I do like that the fact that, it's a confidential service for these clients as well, because, some people may feel fine in expressing that you're there helping them and assisting them, but some others may not, right? And
Yes.
so the services are being offered and they're being helped, and I appreciate that. So.
Thank
Good.
you. Yes, this is, like Mr. Mayor mentioned, confidential. Unless we have a disclosure agreement signed by the client, we are allowed to mention their name as business or print any marketing material. We are required by SBA to have all that formality with them, and actually it helps out a lot with the counseling, because helping out the small business owner, it's always to encounter a lot of challenges that sometimes it's just difficult. But we are there to help, to listen, and to do our best to make them succeed and thrive in business. As of trainings, like I mentioned, so far we have done 9. Our calendar events are for 20 events in 2019. Our topics, I know it's a small letter, it's regarding tax planning. We have done social media, international trade, access to capital, steps to start a business, government contracting, business plan development, financials and credit repair, business protection. I do want to emphasize regarding the topics, all this calendar and the trainings have been done according to the needs in the community. Every time that we have a training, we do a training evaluation survey to capture what we have done, what can we do better, but also which are the topics that the small business owner is looking forward on any further trainings. We're following a measurement and evaluation of our trainings, and also for the 2019 calendar, we'll implement the same performance and help out having the same topics and adjustments. Also, I do want to emphasize for City of Brawley, we have done the basic sales and usage tax seminar in April at the Community Valley Bank location. It was a really great event. We have a representative from the California Department of Tax and Fee Administration giving that training specifically, attending all the questions of the small business owner that they may have on their tax planning or their sales tax. That it's really important to have all that information out for them to be planning and be consistent. Also, we will have, in coordination with other agencies, also we have find out a lot of support with the Brawley Chamber of Commerce, with Calexico Neighborhood House, with other lenders. We're putting out series about steps to start a business. The following one will be here in Brawley. Steps to start a business. We will get together and we're in one room helping out the small business owner, and also we'll close out the year with the financial series. The financial series are regarding introduction to accounting, building your financials, learn how to make decisions with your financials, and QuickBooks 101. These series are planned in November 2018. We're setting up logistics and all the specifics. As soon as I have all the information, I will distribute. We'll have this series in El Centro and in Brawley. That's our final training that we're doing. And regarding cash match, like Mr. Major mentioned, here today I'm here to respectfully request a contribution to support our services. The Small Business Development Center, like I mentioned, we're partially funded by SBA. That requires that we'll need to raise funding for local stakeholders and contribution to support our program and operations. I would respectfully require to overview this request and support for the Small Business Development Center. If there is any question, anything, please let me know and I'll be happy to address.
Well, first, I would like to thank you very much for your presentation and for the information with respect to Brawley specifically, so I think that makes a lot of sense for me. The item is there on the agenda for, as a presentation item for consideration. I know we received your letter. I would like to see it on a future agenda for the council's consideration. I know that we have the Brawley Chamber of Commerce and others, IBDC, to support as well. We haven't passed our budget, so we're in that process now. But I think very soon, within the next 2 to 4 weeks, we're going to be able to have some items on the agenda for approval. Is that correct? Yes, we're hopeful for that. So, again, thank you. Is there any questions or comments from the City Council? I would just like to see this item again on the agenda for financial consideration.
We provided funding this last year for this, right?
Yes, the city was requested to support SBDC at the $10,000 level in connection with the new host entity being established, and I believe I circulated to council the resolution that was passed
Right.
relative to kind of conditions that the city attached to the approval.
And we did give the $10,000.
Yes.
Any other questions or comments?
Just one, and thank you for the presentation, Ms. Garcia. Again, it's always very thorough, and obviously, I think to the business community in particular, it's pretty important that they see the actual results, as business goes. But would you be able to share, maybe if this comes, before us on a future item, I think it'll be important for us to have some visibility of what the overall budget looks like for your department, and give us an idea of what our contribution, what the impact is. And I noticed you list the other cities, so just kind of an idea of collectively in the valley, how it's being supported. And we look at it as an investment. So I don't know, is that public information? Are you able to share that or not?
As of now, we can't, but I'll make to our lead center just to find out, to send you a report, specifically to City Council and to City Manager.
Just for clarification, does the SBDC fall under the umbrella of the IVEDC, or is that a totally
No.
separate?
No.
Totally separate entity?
Yes, our host center, it's Imperial Regional Alliance. It's a different entity.
Yeah, Small Business Development Center is a national organization.
Okay.
Any other questions? Again, thank you very much.
Thank you
and
so
we'll get
much.
this on a future agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Meredith.
Next item on the agenda is regular business. 4E, discussion potential staff direction to establish City of Brawley social media presence as requested by Mayor Nava. Now, I would like to share with you all that I have brought this up in the past. I wanted to establish a part-time person to address our items occurring throughout the city. It's very important that we get on the same page on this particular topic, even if it means assigning some responsibility to a staff person. If we can find a staff person that can provide some updates. Unfortunately, what I've found and what we've all found is that there's a lot going on within the city of Brawley, but unless it's being broadcast, because not everything makes the paper right away, and not everything's posted on personal pages, it is not being read, it's not being disseminated throughout the city of Brawley. So I want to gain your support to provide staff direction, so at the very least those pages can be established, because I feel like we're missing out on opportunities, and we're missing out on an opportunity to speak to the public, which I think is very important. And I don't think it should be any one council member's responsibility to post it on their personal pages. So that is the extent of my conversation. A lot of this came to light recently at the California League of Cities, or League of California Cities, just with respect to transparency and getting information out there to the public. So they gave some good examples of that, and they gave some very bad examples of that, right? And so I want to make sure that when we talk about transparency, we don't just talk about our decision-making policies, but we talk about how the money is being spent within the city, and I can give you a number of examples, and I'll maybe share a few. I know many times where we're buying, in fact, we just made a decision to purchase, the UV disinfection systems from DC Frost. We do that frequently, and that's $40,000. Well, people don't know what that is. So there's nothing wrong with telling them, hey, did you know, this is what your tax dollars are paying for, this system does this and does this. It could be a very short blurb with a picture, getting that message out there and letting people know that these decisions are being made on a weekly basis, on a daily basis, because think of all the things that are occurring. How many questions are you getting about what's McDonald's doing, what's Taco Bell doing, what are you guys doing with the streets, why aren't you guys repairing streets, what streets are being repaired, what are all these things that are taking place? Travel center, is that in city limits or not? Yes, it is. And so all of these opportunities that we have to communicate with the public and let them know what we're working on, we are failing to do that. And so that's the reason why I want to make sure that I get this topic back in front of all of us before so much time passes. And, think about the Hinojosa improvements. Think about the senior center improvements that we've paid for, whether that's through grant funding, city funding, what we just approved, $409,000 volunteer park project, where we're contributing dollars as well. But also tell the public that, hey, a bulk of this is coming from the Imperial County. So all of those things are very important to get out to the public and let them know. And I think that we're not doing that well enough. I think we failed at that. And so I want to make sure that, I made the argument to all of you, and it's not an argument, but it's a statement to all of you, that I think it's critical that we really do something sooner than later. It doesn't necessarily have to be a paid person just yet, but we can maybe try this out for 30 days, 60 days, just to see how things function and get some feedback, but at least follow our policy that we've worked at establishing and get, some pages up and running and go from there. So.
I was just going to comment that one of the things that did come up at the League of Cities also in looking at our costs is that they recommended sometimes if you can't afford a full-time person because of the benefits and everything that's involved, that it might be a good thing to look at a part-time position, that there's people that are willing to take on part-time positions and there's less cost to the city.
And it's
So that's
what I
a
proposed.
possibility.
Yeah, and I had proposed that last time, so that's why I want to make sure that we revisit that topic. Or even, like I said, even if it's just internal for a moment, just a moment, somebody who can capture very briefly what's transpiring. And I know that there's multiple departments and they're all doing different things, but if we could just come up with a real simple format, like, hey, what's exciting today from your department? What's exciting this week, or what's happening? And they can send it to the contact person with a picture caption, and there you go. And now you have something to talk about. And it keeps everybody else informed as well, within the city. So, any other ideas or comments? I'd like to hear them.
Mr. Mayor, I was just going to comment, I think I did last time. If I'm not mistaken, we first brought this up, and it was an agenda item going back about at least 3 years ago. When it was packaged also with video vignettes and some other media platforms for us to communicate. And I think the videos were met with a lot of, quite frankly, success, at least by measure of listening to the input that we got. But I think they were informative. Where we kind of dropped off was we never really moved forward with a plan for social media, even though we had the best of intention to do so. Then I think a couple years later, or dialing the clock back as recent as a few months ago, Mr. Mayor, when you put it back on the agenda, I believe at the time we wanted just more information, more time, some of the comments that I heard from council. So I think that time has transpired. I assume if there was any research to be done, we can do so. But if I'm hearing you correctly, what you're proposing is that as a council, we move forward with progress and steps forward to get a page up and running. And a plan for that can be vetted between, let's say, now and the next meeting of this is what we're going to do, this is how we're going to do it, and this is who is going to do it. Let's say if it is a staff member, so that as a council and as a community, we know how we're moving forward and getting started. I do believe also, as I stepped in here in the meeting, there's some individuals here, just seeing the item on the agenda that I think look like they do social media for cities, specifically around the valley, so I was unaware of, and I don't know if it would be appropriate, it's on regular agenda for them to come up maybe and
Sure.
comment.
I think I see Mr. Fonzie Reason here. Mr. Fonzie, you'd like to come up? He's participated at some of the Brawley events in the past.
Yep.
So. And Edward Morales, digital marketing, and this is his title, Digital Marketing Chingon is what it says.
Is that what it says?
Yeah, that's what it says.
It sure does.
Mr. Mayor and council members. For those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Mr. Fonzie Reese, and this is my partner, Edward Morales.
Chingon.
We're a digital marketing and growth strategy consultancy, and we're designers. Our expertise is in digital marketing, is in social media, is in website design, anything that is technology related that helps fuel the growth of local businesses, local governments, schools. We're a full service agency. We handle everything from the photography, the video, the picture, the copywriting, you name it, we can most likely do it and handle it for you. I do want to emphasize that we are big on strategy, we are big on project management, and then we do work well in collaboration and coordination with other agencies, other companies, as well as cities and chambers and whatnot. If I may ask, I would like for you guys to potentially maybe consider outsourcing or consider an outside agency instead of hiring in-house whose expertise is in this field. It would be a better, for lack of better terms, a better bang for your buck because of the fact that we know how to develop a proper strategy to actually reach the majority of the people. You guys do have some of these highlighted points of what we can potentially help you guys with. Some of these are deliver public information, provide community news, outreach for hiring, boards, commission, notify the public of any emergency that might just happen. We are available, and it is our policy when dealing with certain businesses, certain establishments, that you never know when something might come up. So if you do consider us as an alternative, we would appreciate it, and we would be flexible, and it would be a pleasure and an honor to work with you guys.
Thank you very much, Mr. Reese. And Mr. Reese has been following this item since we've put it on the agenda a few months back, so I know that he's expressed some interest. Go ahead.
I think we have Brawley Union High School. I think we had a board member or a trustee here a little bit earlier, but how long have you been working with Brawley Union?
Well, this is just an example of the many different businesses and different districts that we helped out. Like my partner here mentioned, we do everything from digital ads design and graphic design. So we have provided a lot of artwork for a lot of these school districts for some other measures and stuff like that, as well as we're going to be presenting to them a social media, I guess you could say, strategy to help them educate the public on certain measures and stuff like that. So, and there are certain things that you need to consider when it comes to hiring or assigning someone to do social media for you. They need to be aware of all the different specs of different rules and regulations for Facebook promotions and postings. You got to make sure you stick within their policy, otherwise it will shut you down, and it just becomes a big headache. So hiring a professional definitely will get you miles ahead of just by hiring a part-timer who's just or training, learning on the job, because it's just more than posting a picture with a caption. It's more about developing a nice message, a video, a strategy. I'm from Brawley myself, and I was looking for a
it makes
Facebook.
sense.
Yeah,
the title says it.
Exactly. I was looking for a Facebook page for the city of Brawley. I couldn't find one. I found one for the police department, I believe. And so I'm kind of thinking.
It's unofficial.
Yeah, it's unofficial. Oh, okay. And I remember when I lived in Brawley, they used to have a big black chalkboard here by us. And that was a way of getting, that's the way that community.
Look, I agree with you. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just that the messaging is not there. I
It's
mean, I
not
think
there.
that's where we've failed, and that I would call a failure.
And definitely we can get very creative with this. We can, a couple of things we were talking about and discussing was, showcasing a spotlight on the police department, a day in the police, day in the, fire department, day in the police department, different, parks and recs behind the scenes, different stuff like that. That's going to engage the residents of Brawley, and it's going to keep them excited and engaged with you guys, and it's going to be just a great experience for the residents.
I mean, I always use, and this goes to any department, but I get excited when I talk about these things. you know, Parks and Rec, there's so many things that happen within Parks and Rec during the summer and throughout the year, right? And there's things that happen in the police department, there's things that happen at the fire department, but even, you know, and I always use the wastewater treatment plant because it's not the sexiest place to be, right? It's processing, you know, waste. But it's always impressive, you know, and it's an impressive process. It's out of town, it's digital, it's computer, you know, systems that operate and run it. There's some talented people out there, and people really don't know what happens when the toilet flushes. You know, they don't know what happens.
Yeah, that's
and so it's all telling that story, and that's not a cheap process. It's not, you know,
something to take for granted.
But think about it. We just spent $40,000 on UV light bulbs. UV light bulbs. To process waste to go back into the new room, you know, and so it's getting the message across on how people, you know, how the dollars are spent, you know, and so I think that's really important. I mean, you're preaching to the choir.
To the choir.
Yeah.
Just one more thing before, I know maybe I'm kind of giving you guys too much information here, little insider secrets, but there's
this is all we're going to do now.
Yeah, there's a certain thing where when in order to gain that following and to reach the residents of Brawley, it's not just about, yeah, you can make a post, but initially Facebook, Instagram will only show that post to maybe 2% of your followers. So, and if that content is not engaging, it's dead right there. It will not be served to any more people. So, therefore, your engagement and your reach is way low. So, we have a great way of putting together some, you know, content that's elegant and that's, you know, eye-catching. That we call it a thumb stopper on your phone. And as well as we have different ways that we can push it out, you know, via paid advertisement. That is just, like you said, give you the best bang for your buck.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you guys have any questions for us.
Thank you.
So we're just back to the council, just as far as the discussion, I think it's important to understand it's really a balance of both. So however we would ultimately proceed with an outside, you know, support, I think to your point,
I think that's separate at this point. Yeah, we need to get started. We need to get started.
And no matter what, it takes staff time and expertise regardless, because that content ultimately has to be approved and has to come through staff, and it's the information that we, even as council, want to make sure is getting communicated. So I think it would be appropriate just maybe with this to come back and move forward with what the initial go-forward plan is, so that, because right now we want something to happen, but we need a plan.
We'd be more than happy to put something together for you.
Sure.
There are a couple of policy matters that need to come to the council for action, and they're actually very close for action, but the questions that remain, there's a couple of matters that are, probably need some robust dialogue with council as to how the Facebook site, who can and can't post on it. I did pull together a meeting with the city attorney yesterday and personnel and risk management to pick up the drafts. It has, the reason it hasn't moved is due to bandwidth of staff. I mean, it's not.
Understood.
It's
understood.
not
But
lack
let's not
of a
overcomplicate
desire.
things either. I mean, you know, because I know we talk about so many things and we overcomplicate matters. Let's just keep it simple and let's not get ourselves in trouble. Let's just get something created, started, just real positive stuff. It doesn't have to be real lengthy. And you know, I realize we're walking on you know, thin ice when it comes to our risk management and litigation potential for other things, but I just don't want to overcomplicate matters. I think we do that way too often.
Council may recall that where we stopped off, we had we adopted a limited forum as the content, and then there are 2 additional policies that need to come to the council for action before we move forward. They are in draft form. They are missing, number 1, who is going to be the designated party that's writing the content. And number 2, so there is an area that I think Bill can touch on just really briefly, so that we can kind of prime the pump for the next conversation with you as to how you want to proceed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Well, the big concern from a legal standpoint is to make sure that putting posts on Facebook is one thing. It's what I worry about is the comments, and it's so easy to have a post that generates a lot of chatter, and the next thing you know, 5 different council members have commented and expressed their opinions, and you've had a serial meeting. So we have to hear from you all what the council, what the limits are going to be as to council member comments and stuff, just so we don't get in trouble with the Brown Act. That's the big problem.
Yes, I think there's a question here.
And I think that's good, and we need the policy in place, okay? But then I think what we're looking for is to give staff direction to either create something simple in-house right away, or to go out and look at our option for maybe hiring somebody temporarily in order to maybe create something for us that we can work with or that they can work for us. Now, I think we have to look at cost on that because as you know, we're dealing with budget, so there's a cost, but there's a cost to staff time too if we have a staff person do that, and I don't know that we have anybody qualified to do that kind of social media thing. But I think what we have to do is, I think we're looking to you guys to get the policies to us so we can make the decision on that. And then I think we need to look at what our options are. We have two different ways of going. We do a simple thing right away, or we wait and we hire somebody on a temporary basis fairly quickly, but on a temporary basis to set something up. Now, it could be this firm, it could be somebody else. I mean, there may be several out there that want to vie for this. There may be several people that we want to look at in their product and see what we're buying for that. But I think that's what we want the staff direction to be, is to move forward with those kind of things.
Something simple.
Like the policies
Create it,
right now,
set it
maybe
up.
a simple creation right now. But even when we manage to put something in place simply, that might change drastically as we look at what's impacting us and how the legal side of it and the comments and all that stuff. So we may want to go to somebody that's more professional as we move through this process. But we could always do that on a temporary basis too. We could say, we're going to do this for 6 months, we're going to hire a firm, or we're going to hire an individual for 6 months, and we're going to do it on a temporary basis, and we're going to see how that works part-time or whatever.
All I want is something simple to get started. I don't want to overthink things. Look, I can sit here and post. I just don't have the time to do every single thing.
love your posts,
and it's like people are interested in what's going on within the city. So, I don't have the time and the commitment of time to make that happen on a frequent basis. And it just, it's not something that I can do frequently.
What I think is great to hear from the council is that this is a top priority, because it means other things should be deprioritized because they're not as important. So it's really helpful to us as staff to know this is a top 3 or top 5 priority
Look,
to the city. We'll put it at the top of our
It
list
should
of
be.
things to
It
do.
should be. And it really, I've made this argument in the past. We're so focused, this council and other councils that I've worked with, is so focused oftentimes on every single detail of we bog ourselves down when it comes to development, when it comes to communicating with the public. We need to work a little bit in reverse and get the message out there on the things that we're doing, on everything that we've accomplished, on everything that's happening within the city. We have 100 and how many employees?
138.
138 employees. You mean to
Full-time,
tell me
permanent.
138 employees aren't doing something every day? I mean, that message is not coming out to the public. People don't know. If I don't even know sometimes what's happening, and I'm the mayor, it's like the public in general doesn't have that message. We need to get that message out. They need to know what's happening within the city. That's why we get criticized so often. I've said it before. We need to be our own newspaper in the sense that we have our message out in front of the public on everything that's transpiring within the city. You can't tell me that every single department within the city of Brawley this week isn't doing something, isn't spending money somewhere.
Please do not
Yeah.
misunderstand
Yeah.
the lack of a message to mean nothing's going on, because there are things going on
Okay,
every
that's
day of the
exactly
week.
my point.
Yes.
That's exactly my, you've exactly highlighted my point. That's exactly it. But you can only make that argument for so long before people are like, you know what, everyone's on social media. Social media is probably more important than your website. Who goes to the website? I mean, really, why would you go to the website?
People who want to pull applications or access
Yeah, and they go, and I've
information.
seen our website, really. I mean, it's outdated by like 4 years now, or 3 years. And so that's what my point is. It's like for other information, and you're right, but who is that limited audience? It's people that are, looking to maybe
Who don't want
get
to
a
walk
license.
into a
Yeah, exactly.
department, but want to access it
But the
online.
general public, right, that is just looking for information on their community isn't receiving that. Who's going, unless you're looking for a particular answer to a topic on an agenda item that you're aware of, you're not going to go on the website to look at the video and go through and search you're not doing that. It's just a different environment now. I've said it before. Even if I compare my campaigns from when I first was elected in 2007 to today, it's just completely different. Even from the 2015 campaign to today is so different. So, it's just, that's the way people are communicating and receiving information. And quite honestly, even Facebook's outdated to some degree. It's on other, social networks, Instagram and, Twitter and everything else. So, and Snapchat and everything. Anyway, I'll go on all night. But I would like to provide some staff direction to help establish and move forward with something even if it's dedicating some time. It doesn't have to be a full-time or part-time. It's just some time by a city staff member to get this process started. That's all I'm looking for. So
Mr. Mayor?
I don't think you can be any clearer on that.
If I can make a couple comments.
Sure.
I appreciated what Mr. Morales had to say about, and what Mr. Ruiz said about bang for your buck. And I think when it comes to, a government employee doing things versus a private citizen or a private business trying to carry out a job, usually private's going to be more efficient.
I agree.
And in my experience, limited experience with social media and in a political environment, the rules are changing pretty rapidly. And if someone doesn't know those rules have changed, I mean, month to month, things can change. That's the kind of stuff that an expert or professional would know or should know and would be able
Or you
to
would think
save
they would know,
time.
right?
Yeah, exactly. Now, in the interest of full disclosure, I have to say that in my campaign for city council, I did enlist the help to a degree of Mr. Morales and Mr. Ruiz.
El Chingon?
I didn't know that was his nickname
right,
at the
right.
time, but I guess maybe some of you saw how that went. I was the top vote getter, and I think I would attribute a lot of that to the social media aspect, the being able to interact with people that had real questions. There was a lot of, there were some there wasn't any substance to it. It was just a jab at Brawley or a jab at me, but by and large, people appreciated being able to interact that way. I'm not saying that that's how it would always work in this case, but certainly it was a way to get my message out, and it would work that way, I think, for the city, messaging, the announcements for upcoming events and that kind of stuff. And I do think it is important. I agree with you, Mr. Mayor, that it's an important topic. I think it would go a long ways to helping the city of Brawley, the citizens of the city of Brawley, feel like they're more up to date with what's happening. The Nixle, that's helpful, but I think that this would have a wider reach for sure. I mean, there are people that are probably younger than legally they should be to be on Facebook. I don't know what the cutoff is, but I know there are people that are 80 that are on Facebook, and I know that I was astounded at a recent training that I went to. They had a graph of all the different social media platforms that are being used by people around the world, and to an astounding degree, Facebook was by and large the most used platform. I was surprised at that. I really was. So all that to say, they did a great job for me. I probably would have to recuse myself if it came to a vote for to use their services specifically, but it really, I think it probably won the election for me. I would say that it probably changed to a small degree the way other campaigns have been run since then on social media, and so I do think it's a powerful tool that the city could and should be using.
I would agree. With respect, though, to discuss, potential staff direction, my goal, I know there was some resistance in the past to see this move forward, but I would like to get, gain consensus from council. And I've said this before, I think that, we all have great ideas. We have some very good ideas. We just go about them, I think, in a different manner. But I do want to start making sure that there's more 5-0 votes, and what I mean by that is that there's more cooperation amongst all council members, and this is, I speak for myself and for everybody, and this is an avenue, I think, that there is no argument. That is, the messaging to the public is very, very important. That is what we're responsible for. We're here to manage the public trust, and that is, the resources and everything else associated with that. So, and we need to really express to them how the funding is being utilized. I think that's extremely important. And I think that that's an area where we have failed, and I've said it multiple times. I do my best whenever I can to post on my own personal page, and that only has so much of a reach. But having a City of Brawley presence online, I think, is very important. My ask here today is just to establish, the social media presence, whether that's handled internally or externally. We can decide at a later date, but at the very least, just establish it. Let's review this very soon, like at our next meeting, and move forward with something. I would like to make sure that, because I think everybody on council, and maybe I'm speaking for you, and I apologize if you don't agree with it, but I think we all agree that getting good information out to the public is very important. So, anyway, that's my ask. If you can support it, I'd appreciate it so we can move forward.
I support it.
All right. Everybody?
Yeah,
Anybody?
give
I
us
support
staff
it.
direction.
I would definitely, I like your idea of collaborating, getting the information compiled and getting it to a firm that knows what they're doing to get it out to the general public at a price that's right.
Perfect.
So do we need to give direction? Would it have
Just
to be
staff direction that
offer?
we're interested in that moving forward.
Would that have to go through an RFP process?
So
Depends
what I
upon
would
the
suggest
price.
as next steps
RFP.
is that at the
Depends
next
upon
meeting, there
price.
be an action item that has to do with the policies that are in place, to be put in place, and then we'll have a staff report that includes the in-house versus externally oriented arrangement.
Okay.
For the externally, or if we're not using existing resources, i.e. absorbing it into the duties that staff is already performing, we are going to need to address the budget issue.
And we can
So-
look at a 90-day or, something short. It could be a 3-month plan or 6-month plan. I just want to get it started because I think honestly, the feedback that we'll get is going to be very positive. I just see tremendous benefit. Of course, some criticism, but I think it's tremendous benefit in getting the message out of everything that's taking place within the city. Anyway, so, yeah, if you could do that. Thank you, everyone. Sorry for the long-winded conversation. I know I get emotional or passionate, however, whatever you want to call it. So thank you all very much for putting up with that. And thanks for the support, everyone. I do appreciate it. But it's for all of us. It's for the city. Anyway. All right. Next is departmental reports. 5A, Shirley Bonilla's Personnel and Risk Management Administrator regarding 2019 calendar on page 98.
Honorable Mayor, council members, Shirley Bonilla's Personnel and Risk Management Administrator. This is just an informational item. I try to get the calendar out early due to the holidays coming, believe it or not, in 90 days. So I thought this item coming forward to the council, just for your information, always will answer your questions.
My birthday's on a Saturday next year. All right. It's going to be a good one. Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is 5B, departmental report by Guillermo Cias, Public Works Director, City Engineer. And he's going to talk about the Catacall Parade Chair Protocol, the Community Cleanup Day, and tentative timeline for LTA phase. See, these are all great things that we could highlight.
The thing I wait for with
Yeah, the chair, this
anticipation,
is
the
Sam
chair
Couchman's
setup. The chair
specific
setup
request.
is my pet project.
There we go. Thank you, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Guillermo Sillas, Public Works Director. The Caracol Parade Protocol of chairs, it is pretty much the same as previous years. This time is Saturday, November 10th, the parade, and the chairs will be allowed to be installed the day previous, which is Friday at 6 a.m. And pretty much it is allowed to install the chairs to provide access to pedestrians on the sidewalk, providing about 5 feet from the curb and gutter. And behind that line, let's say imaginary line, they can put the chairs. Any questions that you may have? Another is that if they install it outside of these recommendations, so the chairs will be removed and will be kept at the yard of Public Works, and they can retrieve the chairs until 6 p.m. of the Friday, prior to the Saturday.
All right, thank you.
Works good,
Thank you.
I hope. I haven't been in any fist fights lately with the chair protocol, so I'm good.
You can do like wrestling match chair battle, no?
When I was younger,
The other event to report, it is the Community Cleanup Day, which is October 13, 2018, at the Brawley Airport from 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. And on the brochure, you can see the items that you can bring for disposal, and also what not to bring that won't be allowed. It's just for City of Brawley residents with a utility bill and valid ID, which is required for the disposal of these items.
All the things I want to bring, I am not allowed to. Look at this.
You can give me your ammunition.
Stucco, sheetrock, explosives, ammunitions, medical waste. That's tons of
Ryan
stuff.
back there.
There you go.
Waste.
Thank you. So that's good information. Thank you again. The next is what tentative timeline for LTA phase 11? Is that 11? X? Huh?
Yeah.
Is that 11?
Yep.
Yep. Yeah.
Phase 11.
Is that X?
The timeline.
Anyway,
So
go ahead.
11, yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, yes.
I'm not
Yes.
always the best.
This is a tentative
Yeah, Roman
schedule
numerals.
to go out to bid and for construction of the street rehabilitation projects that includes various components of different sources of money. LTA is one of those. There's an allocation from SB1. Also, there's another from the money that is being collected from Republic Services for the rehabilitation of the alley behind Main Street between 1st and 2nd Street. And also, there's another component that it is for Rio Vista from Caracol and Allen, I believe that is the section. And also the 8th Street from relinquishment money that will be from A Street to the northern city limits. Currently, we are about 90 to 95% of design completed. We are just working the final details on the strategy to do the construction on the 8th Street. We prepare description of the way that it will be performed to try to provide access to the businesses at all the time. Of course, that it won't be like nice and smooth. They will have to go around, and of course there will be inconveniences. But it's not much different when somebody remodels your house, so it's similar, right? So there's inconveniences, but there's a benefit at the end.
They want it done.
So we're working on 8th Street specifically on that and on preparing some plans for traffic control. And we are hoping to, according to this timeline, it says that the 23, but a lot of things are coming, on the way. And so we are thinking that we will have to push for the next week after the 23 to go out to bid. Any questions that you might have on any of these?
There's a question by Mayor Pro Tem, Mr. Donnie Warden.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and directing this at the rest of council also. I did receive a phone call on the item coming into this evening on 8th Street, so I appreciate the update. Fantastic, and it's great news. I know that a lot of work has been done by staff and the team to get this to where it's at. Councilmember Couchman and I, a few months back, had a stakeholder kind of a lunch where we engaged most of the businesses that are directly impacted on 8th, and I think it would be a great idea if possible, rather than, again, just reliant here, if we could potentially engage again, Mr. Mayor, ask our city manager if that's something that could be arranged, but that was more or less the request, that we could give a direct stakeholder update, and if there's any questions.
Just as an FYI, I did send out to Cape Ricola and the entire stakeholder group an email indicating the update was on the agenda tonight. I directed with the link to the report so they were able to get it. And in my discussions with Guillermo's intent is to was actually prior to your mention, to hold a stakeholder meeting once we're at a point that we can talk specifics for construction timeline.
Okay.
Because they pledged that they've got lots of ideas on how to work with each other, how to maintain the continuous access, but we won't be at a stage that we can discuss logistics till we have a live contractor on the hook.
Understood.
That will then assist. But I had a lot of back and forth today with, yesterday and today with Kay.
Okay.
So the original email went out to the large group, and then Kay and I did a lot of back and forth. So I'm sure they're going to have all the content from today. If you don't want to wait as long as award in November, I'm not sure. We could maybe do something about
What I'll just put out there is that we're open to, if there's an earlier engagement, they may not have those specifics with a more specific one even after. I don't know in this particular case.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor. I'm thinking to have a meeting with them as soon as we finish the plans and the written specifications describing the procedure, so they will know what to expect and the inconveniences. Because they mentioned, I believe, that the high season for them is starting in November.
Yeah.
But it's very difficult, it's exactly the right time to pave.
Yeah.
We cannot wait until the summer, or pretty much said we are just waiting to go out of summer to be able to pave. So I'm thinking to, set up a meeting with, of course, you are more than welcome to attend, the engineers that are from staff. So they will be able to explain exactly the procedure. They will see the plans with the traffic control and physically what is going to happen, where they will be able to make turns to get in and out from the businesses.
Okay. I just volunteered to participate, so.
I do think, Mr. Mayor, I do think that face-to-face with these gentlemen and ladies or whoever's involved is probably a good thing. Donnie and I found that in sitting down and talking to them face-to-face in a neutral situation seems to work out much better, and I think maybe one of us or both of us where staff is involved might be a good thing to do with these individuals, just because of the amount of businesses that we're going to impact and because of the nature of the impact on the A Street. The rest of it, I don't know that that's as critical, but I think that's a very critical area. I would like us to touch base with the businesses in that alley, because I think that's going to have an impact on their businesses there, although not at the level, I think, of the A Street. Maybe, but I mean, hopefully not at the level of the A Street impact. The Rio Vista, and can you explain to me, Guillermo, Rio Vista from where to where is that going to take place?
I believe that is from Caracol to the first street to the north.
It's Allen, and just so you're aware, this is leftover congressional earmark funding from the Congressman Filner period. So we had an ability to salvage remainder funds that weren't spent on another project. We did, at the time the funds got programmed, we have to do ADA ramps at corners where this type of funding is used. So we reached out, if I'm not mistaken, two owners are the Hubers on the north and south side of Allen, and then Rusty Garcia is one owner, and I can't remember the fourth. So
well, Doris Pate, I think, or did own the house across the street.
Okay.
From her, and then there's Rusty, and then there's.
Pate. Not Huber. Yes.
Pate's.
My
Pate
apologies.
owns that
Pate.
house. She owns the two houses, one this corner, one this corner, and then Rusty Garcia's on this corner, and then I don't know who's in this other side.
I can't remember, but
it
I know
doesn't
we
matter. It's
made
not
contact probably 18 months ago, because one of the restrictions on the funding is that you can't pave streets that don't have an ADA ramp attached to them.
Okay.
So we talked to them about the possible use of these funds. We wanted to have the chance to take in that one block. And everybody said, they're not thrilled about it, to have the ADA ramp. But
No, they're not, but, I mean, if it has to be done, it has to be done. I mean, over there's a lot of issues with sidewalk and ADA ramp and all of that type of thing, and I think we just kind of work through it over the years, and hopefully we'll get to a point at one of these days where it's better than what it is now, but it's
People are
okay.
flying every day, you don't need to use a car. Or
Okay,
walk.
so that's the questions that I had. I just think that a face-to-face, maybe sooner than November with those individuals, and then maybe another face-to-face in November might be the best thing. I know it's a lot of meetings, but I get the impression that with them, that if we go there and sit down with them face-to-face, they seem to take it in better. They know they're going to have some issues, and what's the best way to resolve that? And then we work with them on that. With coordination, I think we can all accomplish this with
All
it.
right.
It won't be perfect, but at least it will be workable.
All right, is there any other comments, questions from council on this topic? No? All right, well, thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
the update. We appreciate it very much. We'll move on to city council member reports, and we're going to start today with Mayor Pro Tem, Mr. Donnie Warner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be very brief. Enjoyed the League of Cities Annual Conference and met with both during and after hours with multiple fellow city council members and staff members. The class takeaways are always, some of them are pretty compelling, others maybe more informational. But again, it was a great experience. I know I'll share that with my fellow council members that attended. And look forward to everything coming up this fall.
Yeah, thank you very much for the update. Councilmember Couchman.
Well, I attended the library board meeting as an alternate to Luke because he was out of town at the time. It was a nice meeting, long meeting because we all talk a
ratted
lot.
you out like
We
that.
all talk a lot. Well, he was on vacation.
Even worse.
You guys
You were
were
like-
You guys were at League of Cities. Everybody pitches in. I'm the alternate.
has to hold
Somebody has to. Somebody has to be here. Okay. Okay. So I did that. That was a great meeting, Marjo, by the way, and had a great time with the ladies and everybody over there. And then I also had a meeting with a member of our airport commission to discuss some issues related to the airport. And it was a productive meeting, I think, and I think that I was able to answer some questions, but a lot of that's still up in the air, and I think we have a lot of discussions to go on with airport commission, those types of things, about hangars, rent for certain property, all kinds of different things that are occurring out at the airport. Also, I think the homeless had set up a settlement at the end of the runway there, and I think we were going to attempt to resolve that. Okay, and then I also was asked to sit in on some Eagle Scout interviews, 2 of those for 2 potential Eagle Scouts for the Boy Scouts, and we were able to accomplish that at the county courthouse in Derek Kwan's courtroom. We were able to do those interviews, and we were able to be successful in arranging for 2 young men from our area to be Eagle Scouts. I think one was from Imperial, one was from El Centro, and they had done some projects with seating, one at a bench at Buckland Park for people to sit in, and the other one was a bench for the Remington, the young Remington lady, the young Remington girl that passed away quite a few years ago, and he did a bench out at one of the wildlife things for people to sit in with a plaque commemorating her. And it was a really great thing, and I thought it was a really neat project. And so these 2 young men will be Eagle Scouts now, and so that was a great thing. And with that, see a lot of activity around town. Recommend everybody go out and see the pilot that's under construction, the new pilot truck stop. The Taco Bell's under construction. The McDonald's is knocked down flat, I think. And so I think there's a lot of kids that don't have any place to go eat. So, that's an ongoing problem, but that'll be resolved soon. And there's a lot of things going on in Brawley, as George has mentioned, that people don't really know about, but they tend to ask me everywhere I go. So somehow I get the word out there to a certain extent. So with that, thank you.
Oh, thank you, Councilmember Couchman.
You're a media person.
Councilmember Kastner Howdy.
Yes, well, I really enjoyed the League of Cities conference. A great opportunity to network and see other councilmen and meet new people. And great sessions too. And I just ran into a lot of traffic on the way home, so didn't really expect that one. But I did manage to get out on Saturday and go and have coffee with the cops over at Starbucks. So I enjoyed visiting with some of the people there and with the PD representatives that were there. All did a great job, and all the feedback that I received was very positive. So, great event.
Fantastic. Thank you. Councilmember Hamby.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As Councilmember Couchman pointed out, I was gone last week and ratted me out for being on vacation.
Right, yeah.
Thank you for that.
Public record.
Public record now.
I wish I could say that I was at the League of California Cities meeting, but I was not.
He's like, but I was sleeping in,
Yes.
And where were you at?
I was north of that event. I was up in Carpinteria State Beach for the week.
Carpinteria?
I had a more important meeting with my wife up there.
There,
So.
see? There.
We all need backup.
Yes, it's good to do that once a year at least. So, but when I got back, I had a Parks and Rec meeting today, and it was good to see the new committee members there. And I wanted to say in tonight's meeting that I do appreciate what I see the Parks Department doing on our parks. Things are looking greener around Brawley, and I think I'm getting phone calls saying that, people are happy to see that. So I'm glad to be able to say that tonight. I do continue to receive calls regarding the dumpsters on the plaza and the desire to see those gone because of what it attracts there, the cats and people and whatnot. I think the desire is to see them put somewhere else, at least during cattle call or before cattle call, so that the grass has a chance to come back there. I received calls regarding the parks scheduling, which I spoke a little bit with Marjo today and Rosanna, and understand the some of the difficulties there. But what I get from people is that it would be nice to have something that's visible to the general public who's interested in park scheduling, and I know that will require some changes in the way things are done and the use of technology that we're not using currently. So I hope that in the future, and especially as we start to introduce social media platform and that kind of stuff, that maybe we can start looking at using that as well for park scheduling, so that people can see who's scheduled, and things will be a little more transparent and hopefully ward off some of the conflict that happens there. I got a phone call regarding an incident where someone was startled as they walked out to their vehicle to go to work in the morning by someone digging through their trash that kind of jumped out all of a sudden. So they were pretty upset about that and wondered if there are cities in the valley that have ordinances against going through trash cans.
Illegal now by state law, isn't it? Is it illegal now, even if it's on the city street? I could be wrong.
We have an ordinance that says you're not allowed to make a mess.
Right. You can go through it but not make a mess.
I think
But
we
I think
can't
there's something more recent than that within state law, so.
Not aware, I can look up.
Anyway, it was a question that was posed. It would probably be nice to find that out. Also another call I took regarded, someone had heard that the city of El Centro was changing, I think it was El Centro that was changing the way they do their recycling, the recycling centers that people can bring recyclables to for money, that there's waiting periods and that kind of stuff, fingerprint IDs. Maybe it wasn't El Centro, I can't recall specifically, but that certain cities are introducing these changes to the laws that require ID or fingerprint identification and a waiting period to receive the money from those recyclables. And I think it has put a damper on some of the, actually, the trash being gone through on the city streets on trash days, so.
And if I could add a comment to I know it's your report, if I could add a comment to that, there are a lot of people who recycle in the city of Brawley, and I'll tell you, there's some sketchy people out there. There really is. There's some sketchy people out there with, whether it's stolen material or what it is, but that's another item, I'm glad you brought it up because I want to take a look at that. There's just some sketchy people out there at all times of the day, and I'm seeing that now that I purchased that building, in downtown Brawley, seeing it like every single day. But that's just.
Well, we've had those complaints.
Yeah.
I know some of it's bandwidth with the police department. If that's who's got to enforce that stuff, it's got so many other things on your plate.
But there's another method, like
Sure.
you're thinking,
Yeah, and I know some people that recycle that way, and they're not, they're not nefarious or anything like that. But I do know that it causes some issues, throughout the city. So it was just calls that I took. I wanted to relate that to the rest of the council. Also, I know that from time to time we receive a code enforcement update or report. How often do we get those? Once a month, or?
We've been preparing them one time per month, and with our code enforcement officer's position, he's authorized for a 6-month.
Yes, that was the other question I was going to ask. When is the end of that term?
November.
Okay.
When is the next update? How about that?
We can place it on the next agenda.
I'm sorry, Councilmember, I don't know the exact date off the top of my head. He was hired late May.
Okay.
So 6 months would be probably right around Thanksgiving.
Okay. Thank you.
So will we be reconsidering, oh, sorry.
No, please.
Will we be reconsidering whether we're going to extend that at that point?
It'll be up to the council, but I just caution on all of the topics of expenditures. We know we have a shortfall in the range of $400,000 to half a $500,000 in the general fund, so there's some difficult decisions to be made as to how the city may or may not proceed with a balanced budget.
But those reports are good, they're very comprehensive, so should allow that.
If I'm not mistaken, an updated report did go on to the Planning Commission agenda. I think it maybe has not yet rolled onto council's agenda.
Okay.
So we'll bring it
Thank
out
you.
on the next agenda.
Thank you. I did get interest from a few community members who were saying they appreciated having a code enforcement officer on duty and would like to see us retain that in the future, so.
Is that
Understanding the budget constraints.
I'm sorry? Is that
And
your-
that's it for my report. Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you very much. With respect to my city council report, I also attended the league. For me, that's always been a very important conference to attend on a yearly basis. You know, being on council, I don't care if you're here for 12 months or 11 years or 12 years or whatever it is, there's times where you're mentally drained, where you're drained, where, you know, council wears on you. It does. But it's always invigorating to going back to the league conference, because not only do you get to hear from other elected officials, you get to hear from sometimes a very dynamic keynote speaker, and I thought the keynote speaker was really impressive, and I left with a really kind of a full heart of feelings and information, and I thought it was very good. But I also got really good information. I always say that for me, league is very important because there are also a number of vendors there, and we've engaged multiple vendors there, and they bring solutions to cities. You know, for some it's, you know, some of the vendors are there to try and attract large municipalities, and some are working with smaller ones like us, you know, and so we've been able to capture some good information, and not just that, but the breakout sessions and things like that. But it also gives me time to reinvigorate our professional relationship with fellow council members. I think that's really important too. You know, we get distracted with our own work schedules and everything else, and sometimes we don't get to connect and just talk about making progress within the city or what you've been up to or whatever it is. So in all aspects, I think for me it really benefits me personally and professionally, and you know, I'm just glad that we had that experience again, and hoping that, you know, from this point through not just the rest of the year, but in the coming years, and especially like right now, and I've shared this message with the rest of council. It's like I think we all have the same goals in mind. We just kind of been going about them a different way, and we haven't necessarily been connecting. And so I really want to see more of the 5-0 votes, and what I mean by that is I just want more connection. I feel like the past few meetings have been very productive and positive between us all, and I want to continue that. There's nothing wrong with saying that we don't get along sometimes, but I think there is something wrong in saying that, you know, if we're not getting along, oh well. No, I want to make sure that we're seeing, even if it's not eye to eye, that we're working towards some common goals, and so I'm glad that we're going there. So anyway, thank you all very much, and I'll keep that as my report. It's long-winded, but thank you all, and thanks everybody for being out here. I appreciate it. Next is city manager's report.
Three brief items. I was contacted by the Air Pollution Control District yesterday. Mr. Desert has requested a Brawley venue to host an upcoming public meeting. It'll take place next Tuesday from 3 to 5 p.m. And we look forward to assisting with getting the word out with reference to that North End location being available to Imperial County residents. Also wanted to make council aware that we have submitted the updated service area plan to LAFCO. You may recall this was an item that we had been quite delayed in getting information to. We have a number of questions that have been returned to us. So staff and I will be working to address some of those matters, and much of them have to do with our communicated service level expectations and current staffing model that doesn't support them. So the big question is, how is Brawley going to deliver if its stated standards are of a particular level with a body count that's much lesser than what it takes to accomplish the standards? So we'll continue to loop you in on how we respond. The questions are around police, fire, and some of our water related topics. Last but not least, I did have the opportunity to meet with Peggy Price of Imperial County Social Services, as well as the new addition to the executive office, Esperanza Colio, on a topic that certainly affects Brawley in addition to all the communities in the valley, which is homelessness. The county is looking to play a more central role in the delivery of services to this particular population. And Esperanza and Peggy were interested in understanding how they can best service the types of concerns that are most important to the city of Brawley. So we talked a lot about some of the population that has become a bit of a chronic set of concerns along the riverbank, the banks of the New River, and near and around our parks with river bottom access. We also talked about the Main Street corridor and some of the foot traffic that has become really commonplace and has a lot of crossover topics with behavioral health. It appears at this point, as the county has some funding that's going to come to them very rapidly, they're working to develop a program that's going to be a fit for what they could deliver from a performance indicator point of view. So their hope for Brawley is to start small with some approaches that have not necessarily been tried before. And some of that concept had to do with identifying a target population of vulnerable to homelessness, working with the housing authority on some transitional housing solutions that could span 6 to 12 months, but then the final format being a first-time homebuyer's occupancy. And so it was a very encouraging conversation. Obviously, the goals are lofty. The hope would be that the scale someday can be much greater than maybe that first year's program. But hope to share some more information with all of you in the future. There was a lot of discussion of what types of services are currently being offered formally and informally in Brawley, and what types of activities may be more might attract other social problems if they become a service center within our city limits. So looking forward to providing you with more updates in the future. The dialogue was super encouraging in that the county is interested in understanding what matters to Brawley and wanting to be sure that what they implement in our city limits is a fit for the goals and interests of the city. So.
All right, thank you. Our city attorney?
We'll just save it for closed session. Brief in that.
Thank you. City clerk?
Nothing, George.
Nothing. All right. Well, we're going to go into closed session in just a minute. We'll take a 3-minute break. Everyone, thank you very much. And staff, I do want to thank you all on behalf of City Council, myself. I know everybody's working really hard, and I'm hoping that in the near future, those social media updates will provide the public with a lot of what you're working on. So I know it's all good stuff. So thank you all very much.